Hi everyone, welcome to 7 Minute Software, the video series that tries to tackle one aspect of software at a time in less than 7 minutes. My name is Gallo and I'm the director of the Critical Software Lab. Today we're going to talk about file management. We're going to look specifically at files in the Windows operating system and how best to organize them so that we can work efficiently and comfortably. Let's start with what is a file? Well, there are millions of different types of files. And a file is essentially just a very specific type of data that's been formatted according to the type of information that it wants to represent. Here, I'm looking at a few different types of files. I'm looking at a JPEG file, I'm looking at a PDF file, and I'm looking at a docx file. You can tell what a file is by its extension, the 3 or 4 letters at the end of the file name. This is a standard computational notation. If you can't see the extension, you can always right-click on a file and go down to its properties, and it'll tell you what type of file it is. The key to understanding how files work is knowing what information they contain. So this JPEG file, for instance, contains photographic or image data. And Windows, the operating system, tells you that it opens with a program called Photos, so a program for viewing photos. You can also get a preview of the file in the file browser that we looked at in a previous video. The file browser gives you previews of JPEG files, most image files. It will also give you a preview of a PDF file, and a Microsoft Word document file also gives you a preview for that. And so the first thing that we might want to do to files in a file browser is change their name. These are just named Hello World. Now, if you click on a file and you click on it again, you'll activate the name of the file. And here you can just replace it with whatever you want. So renaming a file is very straightforward in the file browser. If you have trouble clicking slowly, like I just did, you might want to right-click and go down to the rename option. There you can directly rename it. So the File Explorer allows us to manipulate the names of the files. It also allows us to manipulate the extension of the file, but we rarely ever want to do that. And that's because the extension of the file tells the operating system what application to use to interpret that information. Usually, it's easy enough to just double-click on a file and the operating system will choose the correct application to open it with. So here, as I was shown in the properties box, this file is opened with the image with the photo viewer. PDF files are typically opened with a program called Adobe Acrobat. So if I double click on this file, the operating system knows to open Adobe Acrobat. Sometimes you might run into a situation where you don't have the application installed that can read a very specific file. In that case, you might have to look on the internet to see what application opens that particular type of file. Now, let's go into the properties of a file to see what kind of information is available to us. If we go into the properties, we see again the type of program that's used to interpret that file. We have the file's location, we've got its size, we've got information about when it was created and when it was modified. This information is going to be very useful for us because it allows us to understand a little bit more about what the file is representing. I think the most important aspect of file management is understanding the size of the file and the name and its location. Now, something that's a little bit confusing about the File Explorer is how to use the address bar. Because when we right-click on a file and we go down to its location, we'll see that the location says it's in C users/gallo/downloads. But if you look at the address bar at the top, it says this PC arrow downloads. Now, the address bar at the top gives you sometimes shortcuts to some of the folders that are more frequently used. But it's also important to understand where in the hard drive the file actually is. And this location here is the actual location of where this file is relative to the hard drive. And so sometimes it's a little bit tricky to use the address bar, but you can always go to your PC and you can always browse the main hard drive if you want to know exactly where your files are located. Another navigation tool that I like to avoid is this quick access option up here. The quick access option gives you a list of files that have been recently accessed that the operating system thinks you might be interested in accessing again. It's not an actual folder. And so you have to be very careful not to rely too much on the quick access tab right here. The downloads folder on Windows is a default folder where anything that you download from the internet gets stored. I highly recommend using the downloads folder as temporary storage and not permanent storage, because it can get very cluttered very quickly. As an example of how to use the downloads folder for temporary storage, let's go back into my documents and let's create a more permanent folder in here by right-clicking, going down to New, and typing in New Folder, and I'm going to say Hello World Project. The Hello World Project folder is inside my Documents folder, which again, if I click on the address bar, I can see where that is. It's inside the Gallo folder, which is inside the Users folder, which is inside the C drive, right? I know exactly where this is on my hard drive, and that's the way I like it. I'm going to put all of the files that I've been working with from my Downloads folder into my Hello World Project folder. Go back to Downloads, and I'm going to select all of these files, and I'm going to drag them into my Hello World project. And now my Downloads folder is clean. The Hello World files that I've been working with are in this folder. And again, I know exactly where they are in my hard drive. Okay, so just to recap, my recommendation for working with files in Windows is to always keep everything very organized and know exactly where your files are at all times. It's very useful to just come up with some kind of an organizational hierarchy so that you can structure your projects in a logical way and you can always find what you need. I hope these techniques help you become a little bit more organized and thoughtful about how you work with files in Windows. Thanks again for watching.